Best Interests of American Society represents collections of short articles written by me, edited by my wife Miriam, and published by LinkedIn and Facebook. These articles are summaries of my thoughts about American society that includes the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, impeachment, social justice, culture, equality, morality, socialism, and Christianity, and represents the challenges of our society, including the pandemic. These articles are about truth. They're not fiction. These are about experiences during my 83 years on planet Earth. 83 years beginning in March. My goal is to share with my YouTube audience important ideas and thoughts before I become senile, like a certain person in the White House these days. Hence, it is important for me to share what I have learned in order to help you find meaning and purpose in your special journey in your relatively short life. Now, the American Constitution is based on certain key Judeo-Christian principles by the founders, such as sanctity of life, liberty, equality before the law, dignity of the individual, individual responsibility, peace and justice, and love is the foundation for all. Some of my articles are controversial. So what? You don't have to agree with everything I wrote about. Let us have a discussion on these important issues and investigate more deeply the truths and the real facts during these interesting and challenging times. Now, our Constitution has 27 amendments. The first 10 are the Bill of Rights. Let's talk about the Bill of Rights. Many have fought wars to protect these rights. I'll give you a summary of the first 10 rights. First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people to peacefully assemble. That's critical in our times. The Second Amendment is basically the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Third Amendment, no soldier shall, in times of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner. The Fourth Amendment, the right of people to secure against unreasonable searches, seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued except for probable cause. The Fifth Amendment, no person shall be held to answer for capital or other infamous crimes unless and until presentation or indictment of a grand jury. Nor shall that person be subject to the same offense twice. That's called double jeopardy. Nor shall he or she be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. The accused shall enjoy the right to speedy, this is the Sixth Amendment. The accused shall enjoy the right to speedy and public trial, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Regrettably, many court-appointed lawyers are not so good. I have a friend who was falsely accused of a crime, felony, 2 felonies, and he had to pay an attorney to get him out of jail because court-appointed attorneys were terrible. It cost him about $50,000. The Seventh Amendment, the right to trial by jury shall be preserved. The Eighth is excessive bail shall not be required. My friend had to pay first it was $750,000, then it was $300,000. So he needed $30,000 cash to get out of jail. Excessive bail shall not be required, or excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. I'm going to skip the Ninth Amendment. The 10th, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved for the states, respectfully, or to the people. So let us consider the Constitution. Article 2 especially, Section 4. The quote, the President, the Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and the conviction of treason, bribery, or other crimes and misdemeanor. High crimes and misdemeanors. Close quotes. Please tell me how political free speech to a crowd of citizens can be considered treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. I don't know. Part of the crowd on January 6th simply got out of hand. Most people were citizens, peaceful citizens, who did not participate in any violence whatsoever. As you know, it only takes a few rascals or radicals to cause a riot. The Capitol has 2,000 specially trained police. Where were they? The Wall Street Journal on January 27th this year said, quote, said, the Capitol Police admitted to lapses, close quotes. Police Chief Pittman said that on January 4th, 2 days before the riot, the Capitol Police saw that the rally carried strong potential for violence, with extremists likely to attend. Quote, we knew that the militant groups would be attending. We knew that they intended to bring firearms and other weapons to the event. We knew that there was strong potential for violence and that Congress was the target. So on January 4th, Stephen's son, Ms. Pittman's predecessor, the chief, requested to the Capitol Police Board that they declare a state of emergency and authorize a request for the National Guard. The board denied the request. The Democratic leaders who were in charge of the Capitol security purposely, intentionally wanted President Trump's rally to become violent, in my view, so that they could finally defeat him completely. Their strategy worked perfectly. By this irresponsible behavior, irresponsible decision, they exposed many innocent people to violence, including members of Congress. They should be brought into court and held for their irresponsible acts or lack of action. We all experienced a summer of violence by the extreme left in many of our cities. They caused violence, burning, and death. Yet no one from the Democratic Party convention protested. None at all. In fact, the former Attorney General of California, who is now Vice President Kamala Harris, raised money from rich supporters to bail out the criminals out of jail, and many of the judges did exactly that. Now, the Wall Street Journal, again on January 6th, or thereabouts, quoted the acting U.S. attorney. His name was Michael Sherwin, who said, quote, "Inflaming emotions is not a crime. The president did not mention violence, much less provoke it." Have you watched any of the dozen House speakers presenting their 60-second frivolous claims against the president? It was political theater. Now, I want you to know that I am not extreme right or left. In some cases, I'm left-leaning when it comes to justice, when it comes to education for all, when it comes to healthcare. In other cases, I'm right-leaning. I'm only extreme in my love for the Lord, period. In fact, I gave a presentation to the Hispanic GOP before the election in 2016. I presented a dozen reasons why Donald J. Trump, will not be elected. Then my wife and I held our noses and voted for him. Why? Because the alternative, in our view, was a lying, cheating, political female animal. Surprise, surprise, Donald J. Trump won. Most surprising of all is that in spite of his crude personality, which we admit, look, he's a New Yorker. I grew up in New York. I understand the crude language. Trump accomplished so much in 4 years, including the COVID-19 vaccine, which was produced at warp speed. What did President Trump actually accomplish over those 4 years? There's a dozen items. I'm going to review some of them. He built a Mexican wall to keep out illegal foreigners. He cut taxes significantly, which stimulated the economy. He reduced many regulations that inhibited economic growth. He increased employment and incomes, especially for minorities and women. He strengthened our military and foreign capability in the world. He eliminated the Iran deal made by the Obama-Biden administration. He made our allies aware of the Chinese abuses and stealing of secrets. He completed trade deals, big deals, with Mexico and Canada, and South Korea, Japan, and partly with China. He balanced the Supreme Court by providing 3 conservative justices. He moved our troops out of harm's way in the Middle East. He caused Europe to pay their fair share of the cost of NATO, which was 2%. Some countries, very big countries like Germany, paid 1%. He's the only president that spoke openly for life and against abortion. The left, of course, does not want to give Trump any credit whatsoever. It is foolish to use impeachment as a tool for vengeance against political adversaries. It will ultimately backfire against them. Joe Biden, for example, could be impeached for lying to the public in his TV appearances regarding claims about his son Hunter's financial deals with Communist China, Russia, and the Ukraine Energy Company. However, if he's impeached, we end up with Harris. That could be a worse situation. The GOP has to get back the House so that if that happens, the president is impeached and Harris is impeached, then the Speaker of the House, a Republican, would become president, at least temporarily. Let's talk about free press speech, which is one of the key amendments to the Constitution. Leaders of nations around the world are upset by big tech firms like Twitter, Facebook, and others who banned the president and all conservative voices from their social media platforms. Twitter suspended the president's account after falsely claiming he promoted rioting and violence at the Capitol in D.C. Its actions came despite multiple statements from the president and his administration condemning rioting and violence, asserting that he would hold them accountable under the law. Other social platforms like Amazon and Apple followed suit with Twitter and Facebook. Now, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who's no friend of Trump, called Twitter's ban on Trump problematic and said that freedom of opinion is an essential right of elementary significance. This fundamental right cannot be inhibited. It can only be inhibited according to law and within the framework defined by legislators, not according to a decision made by social media platforms. President Trump posted a response from the official government account of the Office of the President called @POTUS until they stopped it. I'll quote from him. Quote, "As I have been saying for a long time, Twitter has gone further and further in banning free speech, and tonight Twitter employees have coordinated with the Democrats and the radical left in removing my account from their platform to silence me and you, the 75 million great patriots who voted for me. Nearly half the total voting population is not going to fade away into the sunset," he said. Twitter is not, I'm quoting again, Twitter is not about free speech. They are all about promoting radical left platform where some of the most vicious people in the world are allowed to speak freely, such as the Iranian speakers, communist speakers, China, etc. Trump concluded. He said, "Stay tuned." I think he's going to form his own network. That's speculation. What is the likely outcome from the second impeachment? Number one, it's unconstitutional to impeach a private citizen. Even if it is constitutional, it requires 2/3 vote in the Senate to establish guilt, which is highly unlikely. Moreover, other political leaders might be tempted to use impeachment as a weapon in the future against presidents when they don't like their policies. President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, John Kerry, and Governor Cuomo all claim to be Catholic Christians. But they publicly support abortions, same-sex marriage, among other immoral acts. We should all pray for their souls, which are in danger. According to the Bill of Rights, all citizens have a right to due process, as I revealed with the amendments. Certainly, that includes the President of the United States. President Joe Biden and the Dems are trying to destroy the Bill of Rights. Many Americans suffered and died to protect those rights, including my brothers and my cousin. He's known as the Padre of Guadalcanal, and me. Captain Reverend Freddie Gehring was the first naval chaplain to receive the Legion of Merit Medal from the President of the United States during World War II for his brave work on Guadalcanal, Pacific Island. It was a ferocious battle there. I produced a book based on his true story called Miraculous. It's about his experiences and the child he rescued called Patsy Lee. My two brothers were in the Army and Navy, and this writer, I was in the Air Force during the Cold War. The Cold War was very hot, let me tell you. We were protecting the U.S. and the Constitution Bill of Rights for all citizens. God gave us these fundamental human rights. No one, including our government leaders, can take these basic rights away from us. The remedy for fictitious speech is more, not less speech. We need to find a common ground to solve the pandemic crisis, the serious unemployment problems, and support the immediate financial needs of American families. We must put the greater good of American citizens ahead of everything else.